Main Street here in Magna was near the epicenter of a 5.7 magnitude earthquake. Now 2 years later, how businesses have repaired their damages.
A fire truck in Spanish Fork crashes into multiple cars on I-15. Fox 13 News investigates why it happened and what's being done about it.
Any event that happens in the city, we are responsible for.
Salt Lake City police cracking down on speeders. Fox 13 News rides along with officers as they take on the trouble spots.
A clear end to the week, but changes are coming. I'm tracking the timing of our next storm system. I'll let you know when it will arrive and when you could see some travel impacts.
Coming up, a bill headed to the U.S. Senate could mean big changes for your hair.
We start Fox 13 News at 9 with breaking news tonight. One person now dead after a crash on the northbound lanes of I-15 in Riverdale this afternoon. A horrific accident. Utah Highway Patrol says someone driving a Hyundai passenger car in the northbound lanes was killed when debris from what is believed to be brake system parts from another vehicle in the southbound lanes crashed through their windshield.
It's bizarre. It's just one of those instances where I don't really even know what you could do to avoid something like that. It's just a horrible thing altogether.
Another person was in the car at the time of the incident, though they were not injured. Investigators are still looking for the driver of the other vehicle tonight.
Also breaking tonight, one person is dead after a crash involving a dirt bike in Eagle Mountain. It happened just before 5 this evening at Porter's Crossing Parkway and Evans Ranch Drive. The Utah County Sheriff's Office says a 14-year-old was riding his dirt bike on the road when he wasn't supposed to. Investigators say the 14-year-old dirt bike rider ran a stop sign and hit a 19-year-old pedestrian at the four-way intersection. They were both flown from the scene to the hospital. The 19-year-old, we are told, the 19-year-old pedestrian has died. The 14-year-old dirt bike rider is in serious condition tonight, but they are expected to recover.
It's tragic. It's really tragic to have something like this happen that is absolutely 100% preventable. It's sad that the 14-year-old and his friends were out just having some fun. This was ill-advised fun for them, and it turned into just a horrible, horrible tragedy.
The roads that were closed because of this accident have since reopened. In other news this evening, today marked 2 years after the magnitude 5.7 earthquake that hit northern Utah that caused millions of dollars in damage all over the Salt Lake Valley. Tonight, we're seeing how far a few shops on Magna's Main Street have come since.
And you may already know the town was right at the epicenter of the earthquake. But as Fox 13 News reporter Aaron Cox shows us, it was also the center of generosity and community.
The small shop on Magna's Main Street
in this building
has been around.
Nobody seems to know.
Well, it's been in the family for almost 100 years.
It gives you a great deal of pride carrying it on like that. And the other reason is, you know, you get to interact, you just saw, with the people like we do. That's just a blessing. It is.
Friday marked the 2-year anniversary since Danny Colosimo and his brother had to shut their front door temporarily.
You know, we looked at it and went, oh boy, what are we going to do?
Magna's Main Street was close to the epicenter of a 5.7 magnitude earthquake.
There was a little bit of side to side, but it felt like it sunk. You know, the whole town just felt like it sunk.
The most damage done was to an exterior wall. It took months of repair work, but even though the customers couldn't come in, they still kept their business going.
Took care of customers out the side door and out the back, and, you know, as best as we could.
The Colosimos made it through okay, but many businesses along Main Street here did not. The Empress Theater down the street says the earthquake was a turning point for them.
The theater room is a construction site as volunteers work to transport their audience from Magna to Austria.
Behind me is Sound of Music getting ready.
Something Ty Whiting says 2 years ago wasn't even in their books.
We were pretty close to shutting. The day before the earthquake, we had decided to close for COVID. And there were conversations about, is it time to just be done?
The earthquake caused about $60,000 to $70,000 in damages, something the owners then couldn't afford. A new group stepped forward. It took about 10 months of repairs. The theater was saved because of the community.
It's nice to know that people care.
A community's care the Colossimos felt.
I had customers calling me offering us money to repair.
It's not the first time the Colossimos have experienced an earthquake or their community coming to their rescue. These pictures show the aftermath of an earthquake in 1962. The workers are helpers from the community.
I mean, if there's something positive to take out of the experience, that's it. How good people are and how nice they can be.
In Magna, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The U.S. sent a message to Beijing today. Supporting Russia's invasion of Ukraine could be costly. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke for nearly 2 hours today. The White House says President Biden said Chinese firms would pay a major price if China backs the Russians. This comes on the heels of Secretary of State Antony Blinken's remarks earlier this week that China could face secondary sanctions if Chinese aid is given to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Russia John Huntsman Jr. has broken his silence on the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
I think weapon number one is American unity, because when we are united, we scare every dictator in the world.
Huntsman was named U.S. Ambassador to Russia 5 years ago this month and served for 2 years. While speaking to the Economic Club of Minnesota last week, he became emotional about the struggle Ukrainians are going through right now. Then he was asked how the invasion would turn out for Vladimir Putin. Huntsman responded, "He's done. The Putin era is over." Right now, economic sanctions are crippling Russia's economy, but Huntsman says Putin won't think twice about that.
I heard Putin say at one meeting when we were talking about sanctions, he said, "My country lost 70 million people last century. How about yours? We were willing to pay that price." So he looks at you across the table and says, "Don't count on your sanctions having much of an impact."
Huntsman believes Putin will double down and things will get worse, not better. He says Putin will introduce weapons to the battlefield we have not yet seen, and he will attempt to decapitate Ukrainian leadership because he cannot coexist with Volodymyr Zelensky. We'll continue to follow the latest developments from the Russia-Ukraine war and the efforts to support Ukrainians. Stay with us here on the air and online at fox13now.com.
130 people pulled over, 97 tickets, and 33 warnings, all in just a few hours tonight in one part of Salt Lake City. The police department says the fastest speeding ticket they gave in a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit zone was 76 miles per hour. Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph was there as it happened.
You may see them on your streets.
We'll get motor officers that'll come to the squad. If you make it to the squad, we'll have guys that'll spend their entire career, 20, 25, 30 years on a motorcycle.
But you may not know the history.
But we are the oldest police motor squad in the entire country. It was established in 1909.
The Salt Lake City Police Motor Squad does it all.
The motorcycle makes it much easier to get through traffic. We are much more nimble. Traffic enforcement, DUI detection. We do all of the special events within Salt Lake City, the VIP escorts, dignitary escorts that happen throughout the city.
But Friday, their mission was simple. Speed enforcement.
Speed in Utah has increased exponentially. We see it, the public sees it. The speed-related crashes that we have here in Salt Lake City are higher than most other cities.
And the public has complained about one place in particular, Sunnyside Avenue on Salt Lake City's east side.
We have received a lot of complaints from the residents in this neighborhood.
We're out here just kind of educating everybody today on the increase in speeds.
We actually did a study out here. Just a small amount of time, we logged 10,000 cars that were all going at least 10 over.
Pulling over one of those speeders now could prevent the next crash from happening. Even I got to try my hand at the radar gun.
Like 35.
But for Sergeant Jackson, this is more than just a day job.
Seeing a motorcycle policeman was one of the neatest things I'd ever seen. And from a little kid, that's all I've ever wanted to do.
So while you might get frustrated if you are ever pulled over by a motorcycle officer,
Just remind you to slow it down a little bit, okay? Have a great day.
remember, it's their mission to try and keep the public safe. And maybe a little bit of looking good while they do it.
Plus, they pay us to ride a motorcycle all day. I mean, that's the best, I think.
In Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Wow. You got to be careful out there. You got to slow down.
Especially now we are getting warmer temperatures and
Exactly.
there's more people outside. You got to watch for them and be so careful, Alice.
Absolutely. We do have another front on the way with the storm coming, so we could see some lower visibility and slick roads by Sunday with a cold front off to our west right now. That'll be arriving here to Utah, sunrise on Sunday morning. But for Salt Lake City right now, downtown Salt Lake City, temperatures are about 50 degrees. We have dry roads, a beautiful look from our Salt Lake Tribune camera downtown, the city lights. As you wake up tomorrow here in Salt Lake City, it'll be around 40 degrees, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. here in Salt Lake City with mostly cloudy sky by 7 a.m. We'll see mostly cloudy sky throughout the day tomorrow, and then we do have some winter storm impacts here out west. So for the next 3 days, mainly Sunday, we're going to see some limited impacts here across the region. Over towards Colorado, we could see some bigger impacts as well, but I'll let you know how much snow you can expect out of this storm system, the timing of this, and then also the timing of a next warm up. I'll let you know when we could see temperatures close to 70 to 80 here across the state coming up.
Thanks, Allison. When first responders need first responders. A fire truck involved in a multiple car accident coming up.
A new problem for animals on the Great Salt Lake. I've got the latest coming up.
6 people were injured yesterday morning in a crash involving a Spanish Fork fire truck.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz takes a closer look at the video.
Well, this is the question UHP investigators are asking. Was this car too close to the shoulder, or was that fire truck going too fast and cutting it too close? This happened yesterday morning at about 11:45. The fire department was responding to a different crash on I-15 where someone had to be flown out of the area in serious condition. In total, there were 7 cars involved in this crash, plus the fire truck, plus a semi-truck. 2 women and 4 children were taken to the hospital, and as scary as all this looks, UHP says all of the injuries were minor. 3 firefighters also went to the hospital as a precaution.
We obviously have a duty to drive with due caution and things of that nature. So, you want to get to the scene because, you're there to help and you want to get there and get those people help as fast as you can. But you also got to make sure you arrive at the scene safely.
UHP told us they are not going to be investigating the Spanish Fork Fire Department's policies. That will be up to the city to decide. When I spoke to the fire chief, he said he would not identify the driver and that he had no comment. Reporting in studio, Adam Herbetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
When an island isn't an island anymore, it can create some pretty big problems. State officials are now concerned about wildlife habitats on Antelope Island.
Fox 13 News reporter Ben Winslow takes a look at the issues on the island.
From last summer, what I'm seeing is that the grasses, the perennial grasses, have thinned out. So we lost some perennial grasses due to last summer's water conditions.
Wildlife biologist Stephen Bates says a lot of animals depend on the grasses, including bighorn sheep and bison.
If we don't have substantial grasses on the island, then the wildlife do have a tendency to go wandering.
Have you ever had them wander off the island?
We have.
It used to be the water kept wildlife from leaving Antelope Island. Not anymore. A few years ago, these fences were installed on the southern end of Antelope Island to keep bighorn sheep from straying off. It has a side benefit now. It keeps the bison from leaving and headed towards civilization and Interstate 80.
Since that lake level and the land bridges have occurred, there's been a tendency, but that fence, we put it around the southern end of the island and just strategically placed it so that it catches their movement and pushes them back to the island.
The Great Salt Lake is still at a record low. This year, the legislature approved spending more than $40 million specifically to get water into the lake. With another year of drought in the forecast, state leaders are worried.
I've been here 22 plus years and seen the lake ebb and flow, and it's down. And we did not come up much this winter. Spring runoff still to come. Hopefully we get a little pulse.
The Great Salt Lake right now is slightly above its historic low. State officials do expect that it will rise slightly as the spring runoff continues. Then it'll drop again in the summer months as things heat up. On Antelope Island, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, it looks arid out there, doesn't it?
Oh, gosh.
Where Ben was today.
I think it's looked that way for a couple years now.
Yeah. No water.
We have another storm on the way, though.
Yes, we do. And of course, any kind of storms we're happy about, but we need some really big storms here across the state. Let's go ahead and start with a beautiful picture from the Worm Moon. Love this Allen Day. I am so impressed with all the photography of our viewers. They send in pictures, drone videos, all that good stuff, even cell phone videos. Pictures are fantastic, and we would love to see those. If you haven't joined us yet, we would love to have you in there. But what we're tracking for you today, tonight, some additional clouds by Saturday at 9 a.m. When you wake up tomorrow morning, it's going to be rather pleasant out there, just pretty cloudy. We're not going to see that clear sky. And then our next system arrives sunrise Sunday. Our front is going to be stretching from Snowville down through about Delta. We're going to see some heavy precipitation potentially at times out of this. Although it's a quick mover, we're going to see some impacts throughout the day on Sunday, and then by Monday we've got the impacts off to our east over towards Grand Junction by Monday at 8 a.m. And then we're going to have some cool temperatures to start next week. So here's what you need to know. We do have wind advisories issued for Sunday for Northwest Utah, for the West Desert, 6 a.m. Sunday until 8 p.m. on Sunday. Salt Lake City right now, 50 degrees. We have light wind here out of the east, about 5 miles per hour at the surface. And our almanac today was almost a perfect day. 57 degrees was our high today. 56 is a normal high. So it was a really, really nice Friday. Temperatures tomorrow are going to be a little bit warmer, but it's also going to be cloudier. So our front is now off to our west, the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to be moving in throughout the region, bringing chances for rain and snow tomorrow off to our west. And then by tomorrow night, we'll start seeing some of those chances here across Utah. But for tonight, Friday night into Saturday morning here in Salt Lake, mostly clear sky early in the evening, becoming mostly cloudy. And then our temperatures by 6 a.m. will be right around 30 degrees for Price, and then mid-30s for Provo and Eagle Mountain. Tooele, Salt Lake, and Ogden tomorrow morning around 40. St. George dropping into the mid-40s. Tomorrow here in Salt Lake, it'll be a little windy. We're going to see some locally strong wind or breezy wind, depending on where you are during the afternoon hours, and then again on Sunday. So tomorrow here in Salt Lake, we're in the 60s by 2 p.m. But keep in mind it's going to be cloudier than today, but I think you'll still have a really pleasant afternoon. And we look at those temperatures at 4 p.m. A lot of us around 60 to 65 here across the state. Then our chance for precipitation starts to go up. Our best chance is going to be on Sunday. It's looking less and less likely on Saturday night, widely scattered, and then way more likely on Sunday, and then we'll be drying out. For St. George, you're around 75 tomorrow, 60 for Sunday and Monday with breezy conditions on Sunday. For the Wasatch Front, we're cooling down about 15 to 20 degrees on Sunday with chances for rain and snow. We'll talk more about how much precipitation you can expect out of that storm with some travel impacts coming up later in the hour.
Allison, thanks. History made tonight at the Utah Jazz game, and it had nothing to do with three-pointers, Donovan Mitchell, or the coaching staff. No. How female sport analysts and reporters scored the spotlight.
In honor of Women's History Month, the Utah Jazz game tonight is featuring an all-female broadcast team on AT&T Sportsnet.
First time this has ever happened, in fact, at a Jazz game. Fox 13 sports reporter Andrea Urban caught up with Jazz analyst, also Utah native Holly Rowe, to talk about the historic night.
So Donovan, you're taking a look at the stat sheet right there, but what you won't see on there is you just set a new Utah Jazz record for the most points ever. In the third quarter with 25, you broke Karl Malone's record.
I started my career at the Utah Jazz pulling cables. Like, I would follow behind the camera guy and I would do the over-under. I would do stats. I would be the stage manager. And so, like, to work your way up from literally the very bottom position and to now be, you know, forward-facing, be one of the voices of the Jazz, it's just really cool. It's like a dream come true for a young girl from Bountiful, Utah.
I think the Jazz played really well.
Friday night, 5 other women joined Holly as the voices of the Utah Jazz.
I think what I want people to understand for Friday is that these are women who are really good in their field. Krista Blunk, who's our play-by-play, is one of the high-level play-by-play people in America for the Pac-12 network, for ESPN, for Westwood One. Natalie Williams, who I covered right here on this court for the Utah Stars, and now I get to work with her as an analyst. Nio Campbell, who's our great digital reporter. Jennifer Azzi, who is a former great. Kristen Kozlowski, who played at BYU, and I covered her as a player. Like, we're going to hear from basketball people. You know, the gender is one thing, but we are all basketball people, and I just think it's cool to have different, unique, fresh voices that are still ballers. Like, we're all ballers.
Ballers on and off the court. Clippers versus Jazz. The guys sit this one out, but the women will hold down the fort.
I just think what I want from this broadcast is for people around the world and around Utah to look around them and see, wow, how could we include women? Because we're smart, we work hard, we're resilient, we will run through the wall for you. Women are awesome, and they just include us. Absolutely. We can add a lot to your organization, I promise.
Happy Women's History Month with the Utah Jazz. Andrea Urban, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Girl power.
That's right. Don't you forget it.
A strange encounter on a popular mountain trail left one woman frightened and scared. Why, she says she never wants to go back alone.
And the endemic continues with the loosening of certain hospital rules, where visitors are welcome once again in Utah. Tonight, a word of caution from a female hiker who's sharing a scary experience while hiking in Mill Creek Canyon last Sunday.
Fox 13 News reporter Eliana Sheriff met her and shares why she's hesitant to go back to one of her favorite hikes.
I've never had anything like that happen before.
This woman and her dog were heading up a trail in Mill Creek Canyon around 7 in the morning Sunday. She says a man approached her asking to pet her dog and reading the dog's name on its tag. That escalated into the woman being followed.
He just kind of disappeared off the trail. And that's when I felt something in my stomach and I felt really weird.
So she turned around and started to walk down.
There was someone up in the bushes. At the time I didn't know who it was, and they started whistling, saying my dog's name, trying to get them to come over to the other side of the creek.
She says he then continued to call her dog even though she asked him to stop. He then came behind her and she got her dog back on a leash and ran to her car, panicked.
The question of him, first of all, learning her dog's name, trying to call her dog to her, trying to get her to come to a particular location is frightening, because you always have to wonder is why.
Sergeant Cutler with Unified Police says the woman did the right thing in a situation that isn't uncommon.
Because they're isolated, it is an opportunity for people that maybe are predatory in nature to take advantage of a victim.
It's a story that's resonated with women on social media after the hiker posted about her experience.
Hearing stories like that makes me nervous to come out here alone, if I'm honest.
This mom doesn't usually hike solo, but if she does, she considers going somewhere familiar and populated.
I like to come somewhere where I know there are going to be a lot of people around.
And if you do go alone, bring something you feel comfortable with.
Whatever that is, you have to be comfortable with it and you have to be willing to use it. Otherwise, it becomes a tool against you.
Now, another thing to keep in mind, I have no service up here. So if you are going to go on a hike and take advantage of the great weather, make sure to tell someone where you're going beforehand. Tell them when you expect to be back. And if you can, hike with a friend. In Mill Creek Canyon, Eliana Sheriff, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The woman in Eliana's report there did file a police report. She says she still has not been back to that area and does not want to hike alone anymore. Salt Lake City is asking a federal judge to temporarily halt a civil lawsuit over the shooting of 13-year-old Lyndon Cameron in 2020.
The boy's family is suing police. Lyndon has autism. The family claims Officer Matthew Farilla did not use de-escalation tactics before shooting him 11 times. Fox 13 News has learned the city wants the suit halted because the district attorney has not determined whether the shooting was justified. If it wasn't, Officer Farilla faces potential criminal charges, and the civil suit could impact his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination in any criminal proceeding.
There were 120 new COVID-19 cases and 6 new COVID-related deaths reported in Utah today. 3 of those deaths happened more than a month ago. There are currently 156 Utahns hospitalized with COVID-19.
A federal judge has refused to dismiss a lawsuit over COVID-19 testing in Utah. A Cayman Islands company sued Co-Diagnostics, alleging the company made fraudulent statements about the accuracy of its COVID tests. Those tests were used by Test Utah, which itself faced controversy back in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in a new ruling, a federal judge allowed Gelt Trading's lawsuit against Co-Diagnostics to go forward.
Visitor guidelines at Intermountain Healthcare hospitals are loosening up. The company says the change comes after the decline in recent COVID-19 cases and hospitalization numbers. Under the new guidelines, most non-COVID patients will not be restricted to a specific number of visitors. Instead, that will be determined by the care team and the patient's wishes.
Now they can come in and visit their loved ones 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We don't have any restrictions in general units in terms of the maximum number of people that can come visit. So it really is an opportunity for patients to be able to see their loved ones how they want to see them.
Some units may still have stricter policies. COVID patients may only have 1 visitor at a time with a total of 2 per day. Anyone visiting still needs to mask up in common areas, but can take off their mask in the patient rooms when caregivers are not present.
They put in the work, and their training is now headed into the final stretch. We'll take you to the University of Utah Medical School Match Day and see why these soon-to-be doctors consider this a highlight of their budding careers.
And a mega popular video game now inside Utah classrooms. Why Fortnite creators are working with teachers to show them the power of a battle royale.
And coming up, a storm is on the way. A cold front arrives in about a day and a half. The timing and the travel impacts on Sunday coming up.
Welcome back, everyone. St. George residents, you are needed to weigh in on something pretty big. The city is now seeking public comment on its latest general plan. That's a big thing because it helps plan for growth and development over the next 20 years. The city has created a special website to take in public comment. We can link you to it off of our website, fox13now.com.
Today was match day for medical students at the University of Utah. More than 100 soon-to-be doctors learned where they have been assigned around the country to complete their residency. 10 a.m. sharp is the moment these students were given their sealed envelopes. The Association of American Medical Colleges predicts the U.S. will have a shortfall of more than 100,000 doctors in 10 years. These students, as they opened that envelope, found out where they were going, and they say they are committed to the field of healthcare to help their neighbors and community.
I love the acuity of it. I love the pace. I love the fact that you get to really get in there and do hands-on things to help your patients. I love, everything about it, and I'm so excited.
I went into healthcare because I wanted to be doing something every day where I was having a physical impact on people's lives every day, my community around me.
What makes today even more special for these students is they spent the bulk of their medical school overcoming the challenges of the pandemic. They'll complete medical school at the U in about 2 months and then head off to what really is the first chapter of their careers as doctors.
Best of luck to all of them.
We wish them well. Very proud of them. Well, the makers of the popular video game Fortnite are in Utah for the very first time.
Okay, so they're showing teachers how to use the game to engage and educate students on a virtual level. At the Davis Catalyst Center, that's in Kaysville, Epic Games, their staff wrapped up a 35-hour course, not for students, but for teachers. It was to educate using Fortnite and the Unreal Engine. What is that, another video game or something?
I'm not sure.
out of it. This is not my realm, I have to admit. If I had my two boys here,
Yeah, if our kids
school
were
us.
here, they could tell us everything.
Looks like the teachers really had a good time. They learned how to use the technology to meet students where they are already, and while also showing students valuable coding and engineering skills.
What if we could do a lesson on Martin Luther King in Fortnite? What if we could do a lesson on object-oriented programming, except for we're going to do it running down the hallway of a haunted mansion?
It's like they're using, you know, a tool like that to create an experience that's much more engaging and immersive than they might with PowerPoint, and they know it as well or better than they know PowerPoint.
Yeah, I think they're on to something there. This is the second time Epic Games representatives collaborated directly with a large school district, and the only time in the western United States.
New hope for natural hair. Coming up, what a new federal bill could mean for Utahns.
And later in sports, it's been well worth the wait for Utah women's hoops as they rolled round one at the dance. And how would the Jazz look minus Donovan against the Clippers? Pretty dang good, I'd say. We'll take you to the Viv in a bit.
With more people visiting Utah's great outdoors than ever before, even actions that feel like a light touch can damage or even destroy a site forever.
And we don't want that. Utah Governor Spencer Cox there urging people to respect archaeological sites. He released this video today as spring break begins all across the state. Utah's precious archaeological sites have faced vandalism and destruction in recent years. State archaeologists say as many as 1/3 of all documented sites in Utah right now have some kind of damage. They urge people to visit sites with respect. Well, new hope for natural hair. Today, the U.S. House of Representatives passed legislation to ban race-based hair discrimination.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us what the Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, or CROWN Act, means for Utah's black community.
It's up to you. I don't think so. I can just a little bit trim it.
Monica Chey started braiding hair as a little girl living in West Africa.
I was 12 years old and started learning how to do hair on people so that I would be able to help my parents to make them live.
Chey says braids are what black hair needs.
Braiding, because braiding, it grows the hair, helps a lot to grow the hair. And second, it's easier to maintain. So like what I'm doing now on her, she can keep it for a month or 3 weeks on her hair, and she don't have to do anything in the morning. Wake up in the morning and have to deal with brushing hair or combing hair or starting hair, anything like that. It's just like get on and go to work.
But in the majority of the states in the U.S., including Utah, people have been turned away from jobs because of natural hairstyles.
I've been grateful to be able to go into a workplace with my hair in an afro, because I know there are other people who can't do that.
Alyssa Dershow Garfield has been fighting for a bill that bans hair discrimination in Utah for 2 years.
Style the curly, kinky hair that grows out of my scalp in a way that makes me feel good so that I can come to work and produce what it is you hired me to do.
When she heard this morning that the U.S. House passed the CROWN Act, she couldn't believe it. But she says the fight isn't over yet.
I'm really confused, and it's hurtful to say that, you know, we want to focus on other things. And it always feels like issues that pertain to Black Americans aren't important, but we help build this country.
The bill heads to the U.S. Senate next, where widespread GOP opposition gives it an uncertain future. However, President Biden has already expressed support and said he would sign it into law as soon as it gets to his desk. In Salt Lake City, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
State Senator Derek Kitchen has been trying to pass similar bills here in Utah. In 2020, he proposed legislation which would protect a person from discrimination over a hairstyle associated with their race or ethnicity. This year, he added protective hairstyles such as braids, locks, afros, curls, and twists. Both versions failed to pass.
Fox 13's If You Give a Child a Book campaign is helping Utah children develop a lifelong love of reading.
Not every child has access to books, especially as the pandemic has limited access to schools and libraries the past 2 years. Fox 13 News and the Ken Garff Automotive Group hosted a book distribution event in Kearns today and handed out hundreds of books to introduce Utah children to the joy of reading.
There's nothing I believe in more strongly than the power of books to unlock the mind, stimulate the imagination, build empathy, and create a lifetime of enjoyment.
Fox 13 News and our partners hope the books given to the children will fuel big dreams and plant the seeds for future success.
Well, I have big dreams for some very fun activities tomorrow. Hopefully you can get out and do some hiking. I just saw this picture posted by Kelly in our Facebook group. Not Kelly Chapman, a different Kelly, but this was in Provo today. So I'm definitely brainstorming some things that I can do tomorrow before our next storm arrives. Our next storm is off in the Pacific Northwest right now. Cold front's going to arrive here across Utah by sunrise on Sunday. But what we're watching until then will be additional clouds streaming in tonight and into tomorrow. So by 8 o'clock in the morning, we're close to about 30 to 35 degrees for Provo and for Price. And then temperatures for Tooele, Salt Lake, and Ogden around 40 degrees tomorrow first thing. We'll see a lot of clouds here across Utah. And then by Saturday afternoon, we'll start seeing some isolated sprinkles moving in, but bulk of the precipitation will still be off to our west tomorrow at 3 p.m. But then the storm timing, let me go ahead and break that down for you. Tomorrow, warm and windy and cloudy. Sunday at sunrise, cold front will be about Snowville to Delta. We'll have a gusty wind before the cold front. We do have a wind advisory for the Northwest Desert, and then we're going to see those snow levels dropping, and we'll even see some snow likely down to the valley floor, so we could end up with some slushy roads on Sunday. Now for St. George, tomorrow 73 degrees, cloudy. Sunday 60, first day of spring. Cool start to spring for St. George, and then you're back close to 80 degrees by the end of next week. Here in Salt Lake, in your super 7-day forecast, tomorrow 64 degrees here in Salt Lake. As we go ahead and break this down for you, we look at this hourly forecast throughout the day tomorrow. We'll spend the morning in the 40s, and then we'll be close to 60 degrees by lunchtime tomorrow, and we'll hang out close to 60 degrees for several hours. By Sunday, 47 only for a high with rain and snow likely. Let me go ahead and show you this futurecast starting with Saturday. By Saturday evening into Sunday, we start seeing this rain and snow moves through very quickly, but this will create some slick conditions at times. So we'll have a cool start to next week on Monday, 44 degrees for our first Monday of spring here in Salt Lake. Snow totals, Wasatch Front 0 to 3 inches, Northern Benches 1 to 4, Northern Mountains 3 to 8. Please travel with caution. By Tuesday, 51 degrees here in Salt Lake City with partly cloudy sky, and that chance for precipitation really drastically goes down. So Sunday is going to be our best chance for precipitation here in Salt Lake and across most of Utah. By next Wednesday, we're looking at 56 degrees in Salt Lake City with sunshine. Top headlines, we'll have a cool start to next week for the first week of spring, warming up, nice spring weather, and then we're going to have above average temperatures by Thursday next week. Next Thursday and Friday, we're close to 65 to 70 here in Salt Lake City.
It was a little starless tonight at the Viv. The Clippers have been without Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for months now. Well, the Jazz are depleted as well. Bojan Bogdanovic with a sore calf, while Donovan Mitchell nurses a bad ankle. Names like Azubuike, Forrest, and House also injured for the Jazz right now as they relied on a host of fill-ins to get the job done. Start with some Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Then Nickeil will glide Utah out to a 17-4 start. The Jazz up 10 after one quarter, which began an absolutely epic second quarter. Jordan Clarkson tickling Twine on the three. 20 for him off the bench. Then Honcho Hernan Gomez camped alone in the corner, taking advantage of a second consecutive start this week. And Rudy Gobert laying down 19 and 16 boards as the Jazz outscored the Clips 41-14 in the second to win it 121-92 for their 12th win in 13 tries at home. Dallas came in with an identical 43-26 record as Utah. The Mavs, though, running into a nasty Joel Embiid in Philly tonight, 32 for him, while James Harden chipped in 24 and 12 dimes to snap Dallas's 3-game win streak and put the Jazz a full game ahead for fourth place in the West. You have to go all the way back to their last season in the Mountain West, 2011, the last time that Utah women's basketball stepped foot at the dance. But after a nice run through the Pac-12 tournament a couple weeks ago, the NC2A tournament was a reality once again. Lynn Roberts' group, the 7 seed out of the Spokane Regional, and starting with the 10, Arkansas. Speaking of 10, 10-0 run to start. Gianna Neepkins fires a triple, followed by Brenna Maxwell. Great start in Austin. Quarter 2, the Utes working the inbounds. Hennifer's own Kennedy McQueen, and then right back to the money ball. Deja Young dials up. Utah up 17 on the Razorbacks after one half. The lead widening as high as 30 out of the locker room. More McQueen, a team-high 20 as the Utes record their first NCAA tournament win in 13 years. They'll get the 2 seed Texas Sunday in round 2.
Obviously a great shooting night for us. I thought we turned it over a little too much. But still, to win and to do so the way we did, I'm really proud of our team and proud of our program, and excited that we get to stick around in Austin for a couple more days.
Meanwhile, the Lady Cougars are the third game of the day tomorrow. BYU, earning the 6th seed out of the Wichita Regional, are an 11-point favorite to dispose of Villanova in round 1, and having fun along the way in Ann Arbor, I think.
Jenny in the background. Jenny, you look so happy.
What, in the background?
Yeah.
They've been waiting for this. This is something we've worked hard. All the sacrifices that you make all summer and all during the year is to have the opportunity to be here. There's only 68 teams that have made it, and so it's exciting that we're one of them.
Perhaps the best college basketball player in the state of Utah right now has put his name in the transfer portal. Utah Valley center Fardaz Aimaq was the WAC Player of the Year in 2021 and was second nationally with 27 double-doubles this season. He played his freshman year at Mercer before spending the last 2 in Orem. And Salt Lake Community College is 1 win away from a 3rd JUCO national title. The top-seeded Bruins edged out Chipola College in the semis tonight, advancing into tomorrow's final against Northwest Florida State. Yeah, they won it all in 2009, 2016, I believe.
They've been a perennial powerhouse.
Yes, they have. And they'll have a chance to do it again.
Tournament rolls on.
Kansas.
I guess I know what you guys will be doing this weekend.
We'll be watching something. Maybe basketball.
Thanks, Morgan.
We'll be right back.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Quickcast is next.